Turn it up.
I told you now.
Please.
You are worse than me.
Another year is ending. Shey you dey whine me.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Batterbox Podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Baba K. How are you doing? I trust you're doing well. I trust you're doing good. I'm sure you've been able to follow the last two episodes of the podcast where I did share my journey as a physically challenged man from my young days till this very moment. But today I'm still going to be sharing more story about myself because my life is a story. I want to share my story of how I got into radio broadcasting and before I became a podcaster. Now, I got into radio broadcasting the year I finished university. After I studied theater arts in Delta State University, Abraka, which was a very, very funny situation. I remember when I went for screening in Delta State as a 100 level student. Of course, you know that once you scale through JAMB, and that's after your cut of mark, you met the cut of mark, you go to the school, and you have to do proper screening. The screening that's going through your credentials to see if you truly qualify to get into school, that university or the department for the course of your choice. So I got to Delta State University on the day they were doing the screening. The queue was long, very, very long. And so I held my file with all my SSC certificate, my JAM cut of mark slip. And as it got to my turn, the woman who was screening, there were two people who were screening. The woman was screening for people going into theater arts. Dr. Enito, that's his name, was screening for people going into either mass communication or English and literature. So when I got to where the woman who was screening was seated, she asked me, she looked at my credentials so that I got the right courses in WAEC. And she looked at my JAM slip and saw theater arts, and she said, "You are joking." I said, "I don't understand, ma." She said, "You want to study theater arts?" I said, "Yes, I want to study theater arts." She said, "You must be joking." I said, "How do you mean, ma?" She said, "In this your condition, you want to study theater arts. Don't you know how rigorous that department is? Do you think they are there to play? Have you seen yourself? Have you seen your condition?" Now, don't get me wrong. I know she meant well, because if I was her, I probably would have said the same thing. And I said, "Ma, I intentionally picked theater arts. This is what I want to do." And she said, "I'm not going to screen you into that department. In fact, I need to talk to your parents to find out if they are aware that you are here to study theater arts." I said, "My parents are fully aware of what I wanted to do. In fact, I'd had several fights or, misunderstanding with my dad, because my dad wanted me to study medicine or law, but that's not me. That's not what I wanted to do." My dad was really furious at me when I said I wanted to study theater arts, because from a young age, I would sit in front of the TV, I would mime every song, I would mime every poem or every cartoon showing on TV. I knew what I wanted to do. This was where my passion lies. This is what I wanted to do. So this woman wasn't going to stop me from achieving my goal, my set goal. And she threw my file away. She said, "Go and get your parents. I need to talk to your parents." I said, "Ma, my parents are in Lagos. There is no way my parents are going to come all the way from Lagos down to Delta State because they need you to confirm from them if they approved of me studying theater arts." She said, "You're not ready." She threw my file away. So for 1 week every day I was going there trying to beg her to screen me into theater arts. She didn't agree. At one point, the other lecturer who was screening other students, Mr. Anita, said, "Madam, if it is theater arts this young man wants to study, screen him, let him go. It's his choice. That's what he wants to do. When he gets there, then if he cannot cope, he would leave." At that time, I didn't even know that the Mr. Anita who was speaking was also a lecturer at the theater arts department. And so the woman said, look, young man, I will screen you into English department or screen you into mass communication. But you see this theater arts thing that you're saying, I am not going to do it. I am not going to do it. And somehow Mr. Eniton was able to convince her to, screen me. And she did reluctantly. After doing it, she threw my file at me and said, get out. I laughed. I picked up my file. And in my head, I already got what I wanted. So it doesn't matter whatever you do to me now. And so I left. And so for 4 years in Delta State University, I studied theater arts with all the rigors, all the plenty nights of rehearsals, all the stage acting, the dancing, everything. I did everything because this is what I love. And unfortunately, I never saw, I don't know if I should say it fortunately or unfortunately, but somehow I never saw that woman again. And on the day of my last paper to graduate from school, as I came out of the exam hall, of course, you know that on your final year, your final year, on the last day, you're going to write your final paper. All the students will wear a particular outfit. I think we sold an Ankara that year. Everybody in my class in the final year sold Ankara. And as I came out, people were stoning us with water, shouting congratulations. I was drenched. And as I was walking away, I saw that woman who's forcefully or reluctantly screened me into theater arts. I never saw her again, but the day I saw her, the next time I saw her was on the day of my final paper. Isn't that strange? And she saw me and said, hey, I remember you. You are that young boy who said you wanted to study theater art. I said, yes, ma. I just finished writing my last paper today. And she said, oh, you made it. Oh, I'm so sorry for whatever I did to you many years ago, 4 years ago, when I said I was worried, I was concerned about your leg, about your condition, but seeing you here today, writing your last paper, I now know not to discourage anybody. I said, it's okay, ma. She said, no, I'm proud of you. I'm super, super proud of you. Congratulations, young man. And I said, thank you, ma. And I left. And that was how the journey started. And so when I got to Lagos, I was looking for a job. Now the school days, university days are over. Now after that, I had gone to Yobe State to serve. I served with the Council for Arts and Culture in Yobe State. After my 1 year of service, I came back to Lagos. I was looking for a job. There was no job. Now, you would think that I would go into Nollywood, but I had gone to several auditions from the time Teen Cell started to Wale Adenuga's production. And some, they would just give me menial roles to act. And there was a time I even acted in I Need to Know. I think I was in 3 seasons of I Need to Know. The same I Need to Know that Funke Akindele became famous for. Yes, I was on that production for 3 seasons. And I was not just a waka pass kind of character. I was a very popular character. In fact, they tailored my character after my disability. And, of course, I Need to Know was sponsored by the Canadian agency, UNFPA, and UNICEF as well. So it was sponsored by international bodies, basically. And so they were also trying to show, inclusiveness. And so they gave me a role that suited my disability to also encourage more people. And so for 3 years, I was a major character on that production. But after I Need to Know, it became a struggle. I could not even get any other role to play. So at that time, I knew that acting wasn't it for me. But then I had majored in directing while I was in school, in the university. But then it was also hard to find someone or a team that would trust me to direct a movie or a production. So I needed to think. I needed to redefine myself. And so one day I was seated in my house, lying on my couch. I was in 2007, and I was listening to my transistor radio, and I heard an announcement. If you know say you go study, talk for Pidgin English, Wazobia FM, they find you. And that year was the year that Wazobia FM became a thing for the first time, a Pidgin English radio station in Nigeria. It was a big thing. It was a big deal. I was super excited, so I started applying. Then there was nothing like phones that you could use. You understand? If you needed to do anything, you had to go to the internet, to the cyber cafe. So every day I was going to the cyber cafe to send my CV. And I did not have any experience in radio or in broadcasting, but I was sending my CV every day. Every day. I was sending my CV every day for 7 years. And I never got a call from Wazobia FM. Now, picture this, for 7 years, between the year that I had that announcement, from that year, 7 years later, I was constantly sending my CV, but I never got a call or an interview. I never got a call for an interview, but I was hell-bent on becoming a Pidgin English broadcaster on Wazobia FM. I'd listen to the likes of the likes of Mache, the likes of Diwana, the whole lot of broadcasters at that time on Wazobia FM, and I admired the way they did Pidgin English broadcasting. It was something new, it was fresh, and I wanted to do it. And so one day I got a call. Now I got a call from a friend. Egos is his name. Egos, the stand-up comedian. Now, I had met Egos back in school, Delta State University. He wasn't a student of Delta State University. He actually attended Uniben, but he had come to Delta State University, Abraka, to perform for a stand-up comedy gig. So I met him, we exchanged contacts, and we became friends. But then Egos came to Lagos and got a job as an OAP on Wazobia FM, and so. But at the time he became an OAP, I'd lost his contact. But there was no way I could reach him. So some days I would go to Wazobia FM, stand in front of the gate and say, I want to see Egos. And they say, do you have an appointment? I say, no. And they say, you can't come in. But one day I got a phone call. I don't even know how. And when I picked the call, it was Egos. He said, this is Egos of Wazobia FM. I say, Egos, the Prince of Wazobia. He said, yes. He said, is this Baba K? I said, yes, it's Baba K. He said, okay, I don't know, but I just want to ask, are you interested in working with us? And I said, of course I'm interested. I've been trying to get into Wazobia FM now for years. He said, okay, we're looking for a Pidgin English newscaster. Can you read Pidgin English in newscaster? In Pidgin English? Can you read news in Pidgin English? I beg your pardon. I said yes. And I never had any experience in doing that, but I said yes anyway. He said, okay, if you can get to Etim Ian Crescent right now, we would interview you, but you have to be here in the next 1 hour. I said, I'm already on my way. So I got my friend, a stand-up comedian who is my friend, Odogu. His name is Odogu. Shout out to Odogu. He's called Odogu, the comedy machine. That's what we call him. Because I'd also started doing stand-up comedy at that time. I was just looking for a way to survive. So I'd met some other comedians. I'd become, gradually I was getting a little bit of popularity through stand-up comedy. So Odogu drove me down to Wazobia FM. And that was how I got there. But when I was about to go in, I realized that I did not carry my credentials. I did not even carry my CV. On the most important day of my life, I forgot my credentials. I forgot my CV. And I was scared. And they called me in and they said, introduce yourself. I introduced myself. Now they say, can you read news in Pidgin English? I said, yes. Even though I had not done it before, but I said yes. And so they gave me a script, a news bulletin script, which was written in English. And they said, you are going to transcribe it on the spot, meaning that I'm going to read that English bulletin in Pidgin English. I thought they were going to give me time to go outside, transcribe it, and come inside and read. But they said, no, You're going to transcribe it on the spot while reading it. And in my head, I was worried. I said, how am I going to do this? Somehow I just summoned courage and I started reading it. And as I was transcribing from English to Pidgin English, and the Pidgin English was rolling off my tongue with finesse. They were looking at me. I was still shaky, but then I was able to finish. And they said, okay, thank you. Step outside, please. I was like, what's going on? They said, step outside. Thank you. That's all for now. So I went outside. I was scared. I was worried. I was like, oh my God, I messed up. I hope I didn't mess this up. So I was seated outside, waiting. And as I was waiting, I saw somebody walk downstairs. And the person looked at me and said, Baba K, what are you doing here? And when I raised my head, it was Nedu. Nedu of Wazobia FM. The same Nedu of the Honest Bunch podcast. He was working at Wazobia FM at that time. And he said, what are you doing here? Now, what you don't know, I will give you a little backstory. A year earlier, I had met Nedu on a reality TV show put together by Super Sports. And it was a Pidgin English football commentator search by Super Sport. They were looking for football commentators to run football commentary in Pidgin English. And somehow Nedu was one of the judges in that reality show. We went for the audition and somehow I got into the house. And we were in the house for weeks. And Nedu was one of the 3 judges who were assessing us, scoring our football commentary in Pidgin English for weeks. And I was one of the 2. We were only 2 people that got to the final. I and my friend, a personal friend of mine, his name is Timmy Owoye-Wise. I think he still works in Wazobia FM now. But so 2 of us got to the final for the Super Sport Pidgin English. They call it Super Sport Follow Your Mouth. And I was just using my comedy experience to run Pidgin English commentary, putting humor into it and every other thing. The crowd was loving what I was doing because on the final day of the reality show, it was not a recorded thing. It was live. Everybody, the entire crowd was watching us on that day. And as I was doing my commentary, running my commentary in Pidgin English, the crowd went wild. They were clapping for me. They were cheering for me. And in my head, this is it. I am the winner. And somehow, I lost that competition or that reality show to Timmy Owoye-Wise. I still don't know why till date. I don't know why. The crowd was not happy that the organizers chose Timmy Owoye-Wise, but I guess it was his destiny. And so that's the backstory of how I met Nedu. And Nedu told me, Baba K, honestly, you are the one I wanted to win this thing, but I don't know why the other judges went the other way. But not to worry, we'll see. Just keep in touch. So for that time, that was how I met Nedu, and for like a year I didn't hear anything from him again until that day that I came for the interview at Wazobia FM. And Nedu saw me like, what are you doing here? I said I came for an interview for a newscaster, and coincidentally he was a newscaster in Wazobia FM at that time. So he just said, wait here. He walked into the office where the people who interviewed me were seated, and I could hear him tell them, this guy is good. I've seen him before. He did so and so. You guys must hire this guy. Big shout out to Nedu. Nedu was one of the reasons they hired me that day. And that was how Wazobia FM hired me. And they hired me to become a newscaster on Wazobia FM. Not just Wazobia FM, but also on Wazobia TV. So I was reading news on TV and also on radio for years. But now, why am I telling you this story? For 7 years, I was chasing this dream of becoming a Pidgin English broadcaster. And it looked like it wasn't going to happen. But if you see all the connections, I'm somebody that I believe in patterns. I believe in patterns. You see, all these chain connections led me somewhere. I had to meet Nedu in a reality TV show that I lost, because several years later I was going to meet him again, and he was going to put in a word for me to become a newscaster on Wazobia FM. And that was how my journey began as a Pidgin English newscaster and broadcaster. So I'm trying to say that hope is something you should always hold on to. Never give up on your dream. All your dreams are valid. Never give up on your dreams. And as always, this is the Batterbox Podcast, and they call me Baba K. Make sure you follow us on all our social media platforms, and also make sure you stream every episode because we have it on all streaming platforms as well. And like I always say, the matter does not matter until it begins to matter. And this is where I sign out.
Bata bata, bata bata, bata box.